I remember the morning my son zipped up his uniform for deployment. The sun wasn't even fully up yet, and the house was still wrapped in that strange mix of quiet and heaviness. He stood in the hallway adjusting the Velcro on his sleeve, the same way he did when he was a boy fixing the strap on his backpack before school. "You'll be okay here, Mom," he said, smiling the smile that tried to hide worry. I nodded, pretending to be stronger than I felt. "Of course. Go do what you need to do. I'll hold down the fort." And at that moment, my daughter-in-law stepped out of the kitchen with a plate of hot pancakes. "Before you leave, you're eating," she said, touching his arm gently. "You can't go on an empty stomach." Back then, she was sweetness wrapped in kindness. She pulled out his chair, tucked the napkin beside him, even cut fruit the way he liked. She looked at me and said, "Mom, sit too. You can't let him eat alone today." She made me tea exactly the way I love it, light milk, no sugar. She refilled it without asking. She kept checking on me as if she were genuinely concerned. I believed every bit of it. When he walked out the door with his duffel bag slung over his shoulder, she held his face, pressed her forehead to his, told him she'd take care of everything here. And he believed her too. The moment the gate closed behind him, the warmth inside the house drained out like someone had pulled a plug. She didn't even wait a full minute. Her eyes changed first, softness gone, affection gone, replaced with irritation. "Well," she breathed out loudly, turning toward me, "now the real work starts." I tried to smile, assuming maybe she meant house chores. But no. She meant me. "You can start by washing those dishes," she said, pointing at the sink overflowing with plates and pans. "It's the least you can do." I blinked at her, confused. She'd never spoken to me like that before. Not once. But I didn't want to start anything. My son had just left. My heart was already too full. So I walked to the sink, rolled up my sleeves, and washed every pot and plate with my hands trembling under the warm water. When I finished, she didn't say thank you. She just walked by and placed another cup in the sink. "You missed one." And that was only the beginning. The next morning, she banged on my door at 6 a.m. "Get up. I need the laundry done before breakfast." I opened the door slowly. "Are you feeling okay? I can do it later, if..." "No. Do it now," she snapped. "You sleep too much for someone who barely does anything." Her tone stung more than her words. I'd been living here for years, helping with everything, caring for her daughter when she was born, cooking meals, folding clothes. But suddenly I was barely doing anything. I folded the clothes exactly how she liked. She came and refolded them in front of me. "Wrong. Let me show you how not to be sloppy." I swallowed my pride. "I'm sorry," I whispered. She smirked. "Yeah. You should be." The days blended into a routine of commands and insults. "Why are you so slow? You don't cook like my mother. You're so outdated. Learn something." She made me scrub the floors, wash the windows, rewash laundry if she didn't like the smell. One evening she tossed a pan toward the sink and said, "Clean this properly. I can still smell oil." I cooked dinner that night. She took one bite, spit it out dramatically, and dumped the entire plate in the trash. "What is wrong with you? Do you not know how to cook American food?" I felt myself shrinking a little each day. The house that once felt like family felt like a battlefield without my son in it. I missed him so badly some nights my chest hurt. A week later, things got worse. I had just finished sweeping when she stormed into the living room holding her phone. "I need you to watch my daughter today. I'm going out." "Of course," I said. "Where are you going?" "You ask too many questions," she snapped. "Just be useful for once." She left for hours. I took care of the little girl, fed her, played with her, put her down for a nap. When my daughter-in-law came back, she grabbed her daughter without even looking at me. That night, she made me wash dishes again. My back hurt. My knees hurt. But I stayed quiet. That was my mistake. Silence gave her permission to push further. One afternoon she called me from the other room. "Come here." I walked in, wiping my wet hands on my apron. She pointed at a pile of clothes on the floor. "Fold these." "I don't have all day." I nodded and reached forward, but she stepped in front of me, blocking my way. You know something, she said, crossing her arms. I never wanted you living here. The words pierced me. But your son insisted, she went on, rolling her eyes. And now he's gone, and I'm stuck with you. I swallowed the ache rising in my throat. I didn't know you felt like that. Oh please, she scoffed. Don't act innocent. You've been freeloading long enough. Freeloading? I had spent my entire life working for my family, raising my son alone, selling my jewelry to send him to military school, taking care of their child, cooking, cleaning, supporting. Freeloading? She bent down, picked up a sweater, and shoved it against my chest. Start folding before I lose my patience. Something inside me cracked, but I held it together. For my son. For the promises I made him. The night she threw me out is burned into my memory like it happened seconds ago. She walked into my room without knocking. Get your things. You're leaving. I blinked at her, confused. What do you mean, leaving? I can't stand you anymore, she said coldly. You're a burden. You don't cook right, you don't clean right, you're slow, and you take up space. I stood frozen. You heard me, she snapped. Pack your stuff. This is my house. My rules. I shook my head slowly. My son. Your son isn't here, she interrupted sharply. And I'm done pretending I like you. She pointed toward the door. Out. Now. I held my trembling hands together. Please, it's late. Where will I go? Not my problem, she said, shrugging. You should have thought of that before making my life miserable. My heart sank. I've done everything you asked. And it still wasn't enough. I packed my small bag, the same one I used years ago when I first moved in to help her during her pregnancy. I opened drawers carefully, wiping tears when she wasn't looking. In the corner of the closet was an old sweater my son bought me during his first paycheck. I pressed it against my heart. I walked through the hallway slowly, the walls echoing memories, birthdays, laughter, my grandson's first steps, my son's calls from deployment. And now, silence. My daughter-in-law stood by the door, arms crossed, foot tapping impatiently. Hurry up. I don't have all day. I stepped outside. She slammed the door behind me with a force that shook the porch. The cold air hit my face. But then, I heard footsteps. Strong, heavy, familiar footsteps. My breath caught. The gate creaked open. And there he was. My son. Still in uniform. Still holding his duffel bag. Still smelling like dust and sun and home. Mom, he said, eyes widening in shock. Why are you outside? Where's your stuff? Why are you crying? And that was the moment everything changed. The moment my son's eyes met mine, every wall I'd been holding up for weeks crumbled. My lips trembled, and before I could gather myself, he dropped his duffel bag right there on the ground and rushed toward me. He cupped my shoulders gently. Mom, what happened? Why are you outside like this? Who hurt you? I tried to speak, but the words stuck in my throat like something too painful to swallow. I was just. No, he said softly, shaking his head. Don't try to hide anything. Tell me. But I couldn't, not with the front door opening behind us. My daughter-in-law stepped out, her face shifting from irritation to shock when she saw him. Oh, you're home early. He turned to look at her, and his voice dropped into a calm I'd only ever heard in his military tone. Why is my mother standing outside the house with a bag? She blinked fast, trying to collect herself. She wanted some fresh air. My son didn't even blink. Fresh air with luggage? She forced a tiny laugh. Well, she was, helping me declutter. He stared at her, and his jaw tightened. That was when something inside me snapped, not anger, not fear, just exhaustion. You don't have to lie, I whispered. My daughter-in-law looked at me sharply, but I didn't look back at her. I looked at my son. She threw me out. His entire face changed. Not loud, not explosive, just still. And that stillness was scarier than any shouting could be. What did you just say? He asked, voice low. I held onto my bag with both hands. She told me to leave. She said. I shouldn't live here anymore. He turned slowly toward his wife, and the air between them grew colder than the evening breeze. Is that true? He asked. She rolled her eyes slightly, crossing her arms. Okay, look. I didn't throw her out. I just told her maybe she should go stay somewhere else for a while. She stresses me out. She's always in my way. She doesn't know how to do things properly. And I can't keep carrying everything on my shoulders. My son blinked once. Carrying everything? She nodded dramatically. Yes, everything. She doesn't help. She barely contributes. She's extra responsibility. I shut my eyes for a second because the words hurt more than I expected. My son looked at her like he didn't recognize her at all. You made my mother wash the dishes, didn't you? She scoffed. Someone had to. I work hard too, you know. And the laundry, he continued quietly. And the cooking. And the cleaning. And taking care of our daughter. And you still say she doesn't contribute. She shrugged. She wasn't doing it right. He inhaled slowly. I could see the soldier in him coming out, controlled, composed, focused. You made her sleep in fear, he said. Didn't you? She flinched. I didn't scare her. I just. You insulted her. I didn't insult. You made her cry. I didn't. You put her outside the house. Silence. My daughter-in-law opened her mouth but closed it again. She looked like someone who'd been caught off guard by her own lies. Look, I wasn't trying to be cruel, she finally said, softer, almost pleading. I needed space. I needed things done my way. And she made me feel like I was losing control. My son stared at her. So your solution was to bully my mother? She winced. I didn't bully her. If I left you with my mother for protection, love, and family while I was away, he said, and the first thing you did was strip her dignity, what does that say about you? Her eyes reddened. I'm trying my best. He shook his head slowly. No. My mother tries her best. You tried to break her. My knees felt weak hearing him defend me like that. For so long, I'd felt invisible in my own home. And now, standing in the cold evening air, my son was seeing everything clearly. Mom, he said, turning to me, you're coming inside. I shook my head gently, wiping a tear. I don't want to cause trouble. You're not causing anything, he said. You're returning to your home. He lifted my bag from my hands, wrapped his arm around me, and guided me back toward the house. My daughter-in-law stepped aside reluctantly, her eyes lowered. The warmth of the living room hit my face as we entered. My heart felt heavy and relieved at the same time. I sat on the couch carefully. My son knelt in front of me, like he used to when he was little. Tell me everything, he whispered. Every single thing she did. I shook my head slowly. You just came home. You're tired. You need to rest. He held my hand. Mom, I fight wars out there. But this. I should never have had to fight it at home. His voice cracked just enough for me to feel the weight of everything he carried. I'm sorry you went through this alone, he said softly. Before I could answer, my daughter-in-law stepped into the room. Her face was softer now, guilt, maybe fear, maybe both. Can we talk? She asked quietly. My son didn't move. Talk to her, he said. Not me. She hesitated, then sat down across from me. She wouldn't look directly into my eyes at first. Mom, she said gently, I'm sorry. I felt my throat tighten. I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. I shouldn't have made you do anything. I shouldn't have pushed you out. I was overwhelmed. I felt alone. And I took it out on you. That wasn't fair. My son watched her, unreadable. She continued, her voice trembling. When he left, everything felt heavier. I panicked. I got frustrated. And instead of asking for help, I punished the only person who was actually helping me. A tear slid down her cheek. I'm really sorry. My heart, even after everything, softened a little. I wasn't made of stone. I'd lived enough years to know that pain turns good people bitter sometimes. I forgive you, I whispered. She looked up in surprise. You do? I nodded. But forgiveness doesn't erase pain. And it doesn't erase truth. She swallowed, nodding slowly. I know. My son stood up and stepped beside me. From now on, he said firmly, my mother will be treated with respect. Not because she's my mom, but because she deserves it. My daughter-in-law nodded quickly. Yes. Absolutely. I understand. He crossed his arms. And any decision involving her living here will be made by me. Not behind my back. Not in anger. Yes, she whispered. The room fell quiet. My son looked at me. Mom, do you want to stay here? Or should I take you with me for now? I looked at both of them, the fear in one face, the strength in the other. For the first time in weeks, the house didn't feel like a punishment. It felt like home again, or at least the seed of home. I'll stay, I said softly. But things must change. My daughter-in-law nodded. They will. I promise. My son exhaled, relieved but still protective. Good. Because if anything like this happens again, I won't stay quiet. He turned toward her, his voice becoming steel. This is the woman who raised me with nothing but love. If you cannot love her, you will at least honor her. She lowered her head. I will. The tension slowly dissolved, replaced by something fragile but real. My son sat beside me, letting his shoulder lean against mine. You're safe now. I closed my eyes, letting the warmth finally seep back into my heart. Little did I know, this was only the beginning of everything that came next. That night, after everything settled, I sat alone in my room not because I was isolated, but because my heart needed quiet. I touched the edge of my son's uniform jacket hanging near my bed. The scent of dust and travel still clung to it, mixed with the faint smell of his cologne. It felt like holding a piece of him I'd been missing for too long. I heard a soft knock on the door. My daughter-in-law peeked in. Can I come in? I nodded slowly. She stepped inside without the arrogance she once carried. Instead, she stood like someone who wasn't sure if they belonged. I just wanted to see if you needed anything. I'm fine, I said gently. She laced her fingers together, her voice trembling. No, saying sorry once isn't enough. I treated you horribly. You didn't deserve any of it. I didn't say anything. Some wounds still needed breathing room. She took a shaky breath. I lost myself while he was gone. I felt like I was drowning. Handling work, the baby, the house, and I thought if I didn't control everything, I'd lose everything. But instead, I hurt the one person who was actually here. I looked at her hands. They were shaking. Next time, I said softly, ask for help instead of hurting. Tears welled up in her eyes. I will. I swear. She turned to leave, but stopped. If you ever want to talk, I'll listen. When she walked out, I felt something shift. Not trust, not yet. But maybe the chance of rebuilding something that was almost lost. The next morning, I woke up earlier than the sun. Old habit. I walked out to the kitchen quietly, expecting to start breakfast. But to my surprise, my daughter-in-law was already there cooking. She looked at me with a small, nervous smile. I made pancakes. The way you taught me. I blinked. For me. For all of us, she said gently. I sat slowly as she brought a plate to the table. My son walked in next, yawning and rubbing his eyes, but the moment he saw me sitting there looking normal, not broken, his shoulders relaxed. Morning, Mom, he said, kissing my forehead before sitting beside me. We ate together, and for the first time in weeks, the house didn't feel heavy. My granddaughter giggled from her high chair. My daughter-in-law even placed extra syrup near me without being asked. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Later that day, after breakfast, my son called me outside to the porch. Walk with me? I nodded. We walked slowly along the quiet street. The wind smelled like fresh-cut grass. The neighborhood kids' bikes were scattered near the sidewalk. It felt like a typical American suburb, but my world had shifted entirely. I didn't expect to see you today, I told him. You didn't even call. He smiled. We were done earlier than expected. And I wanted to surprise you. You surprised me more than you know. He stopped walking and looked at me. Mom, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you tell me what she was doing? I shook my head. You were serving the country. You had enough on your shoulders. I didn't want to add to the weight. He sighed deeply. You should have told me. I would have come home. I put a hand on his arm. No. You were meant to be where you were. I survived. I always survive. He looked down at me with that familiar mix of respect and worry. You shouldn't have to survive in your own home, Mom. I smiled softly. Things will get better. He nodded, though I could tell he was still angry deep inside. When we returned home, my daughter-in-law was sitting on the couch holding a notebook. She stood up when she saw us. Can I talk to both of you? We Saturday. She opened the notebook. I made a list, she said. Everything you've been helping with. Everything I should have appreciated. Everything I took for granted. My son folded his arms, listening. I wrote down ways I'm going to improve, she continued. Ways I'll divide responsibilities without dumping anything on you. Ways I'll talk to you with respect, not frustration. She turned the notebook around so I could see. The list was long. Laundry, dishes, grocery, cooking, childcare, errands, cleaning, gardening, scheduling, budgeting. Each task had notes beside it like, don't make her feel obligated. Show appreciation. Ask, don't order. Share workload. Communicate without anger. I didn't expect this. Not at all. I looked up at her. This is thoughtful. She nodded. It's the least I can do. My son leaned back slowly, studying her. I hope you mean all of it. She looked right into his eyes. I do. I could see sincerity, maybe guilt, maybe fear, but also effort. Real effort. Days passed, and the house started feeling like a home again. My daughter-in-law began helping me instead of controlling me. She cooked with me. She asked me about my day. She apologized more than once when she slipped back into old habits. My son stayed a few days before reporting back. Those days were peaceful. We talked, laughed, shared meals, watched old movies, and played with my granddaughter who clung to him like a little koala. The night before he left, he sat beside me on the porch again. Mom, I'll be gone a while. But I need to know you'll be okay. I looked through the window at my daughter-in-law, reading a storybook to the baby. I will be, I said. He nodded, relieved. If anything happens, anything, you tell me. I don't care where I am. I will, I promised. He hugged me tight before going inside. But the truth? I wasn't okay. Not inside. Even though things seemed fine, something still felt fragile. Like I had to walk carefully, breathe carefully, exist carefully, to keep the peace. One afternoon, while I was folding clothes in my room, I heard my daughter-in-law speaking to someone on the phone. Her tone wasn't angry. It wasn't cruel. But it wasn't kind either. She thinks everything is fine, she whispered. But you know how it is. If he wasn't back, I wouldn't be dealing with this. My hands froze. Dealing with this? Dealing with me? My heart stung. My eyes filled again. Not because she was yelling, but because she wasn't. She was calmly saying those words. Words she would never say in front of my son. She's older. She slows everything down. I'm just waiting for him to leave so I can have my space back. She paused. Yes, I'll find a way. Don't worry. My chest tightened. A familiar fear returned, the same fear I felt the day she threw me out. I stepped back from the door quietly, holding my breath so she wouldn't hear. I sat on the edge of my bed, wiping my tears with the edge of my sleeve. My thoughts raced. Was this all temporary kindness? Was she pretending to change? Would she hurt me again once my son left? I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to think the worst. But her voice, it wasn't the voice of someone who'd changed. It was the voice of someone waiting for an opportunity. That night, I barely slept. And in the morning, everything I feared happened sooner than I imagined. I take a slow breath before continuing, letting the air rattle in my chest the way it does when a memory is too heavy to hold quietly. You know, I say, a mother can forgive almost anything. Disappointment, anger, even disrespect. But the day a child's home stops feeling like home, that's when something inside you begins to crumble. And that's exactly what was happening to me. I stopped sleeping in my own room. It wasn't that Emily told me not to. She never said it directly. She didn't have to. Every time I tried to go upstairs to my space, she would make some offhand comment that slithered under my skin like a poisoned whisper, "It's too messy up there. I had guests last week. The room smells odd. The bed creaks too loud. I don't want allergies from the dust." Little things. Small things. Petty things. But when you add up enough small cuts, you start to bleed. So I began lying on the couch at night, pretending it was just because the TV helped me fall asleep. Pretending it was comfortable. Pretending it was my choice. And every night, I woke up before dawn just to fold the blanket neatly, so she wouldn't accuse me of leaving a mess. The chores grew heavier too. She wouldn't hand them to me directly anymore. No, now she used silence. A sink full of dishes left untouched until midnight. A basket of laundry set in the middle of the hallway, so I had to stumble over it on purpose. Ingredients scattered across the counter, but no meal started. And the moment I moved, she'd sigh dramatically, as if I were inconveniencing her by taking care of the home I helped build. "Thank you, Patricia," she'd say in that syrup-coated voice. "You do have a lot of free time, so it helps." Free time. Yes, I had free time. Because my life had slowly been reduced to waiting for my son's next phone call from the base, and hoping the woman he trusted most wouldn't completely erase me before he returned. One evening, after washing a sink full of dishes that weren't even mine, I sat on the back porch. The cold wood beneath me felt like a friend, solid, honest, and incapable of pretending. The sky was turning purple, the same shade it took on the night my son left for boot camp years ago. I remember hugging him so tightly I thought my ribs would break. I remember Emily standing behind us, tears in her eyes, holding his duffel bag like she was sending him into war. Back then, she really loved him. Back then, she really respected me. What changed? Or maybe nothing changed. Maybe I had just been too hopeful to see the truth. The next morning, Emily didn't speak a word. Just clattered around the kitchen loudly, making sure every sound stabbed into my ribs. Finally she said it, her voice tight, irritated, like she'd been practicing this sentence all night. "You should take a walk today, Patricia. Get some air. You're always inside the house." I blinked at her. "Do you need the house cleaned?" "No," she said, too quickly. "I just think it's better if you go out for a bit." Better for who? But I didn't ask. I simply nodded, put on my old coat, and stepped outside. For a moment, the sunlight felt warm on my face. Gentle. Healing. Until I heard the click. The front door. Locked. Not by accident. Not out of habit. She had shut me out. On purpose. I stared at the door. Only silence stared back at me. I knocked once. Then twice. Then whispered through the wood, "Emily, open the door. Please." Nothing. My hands trembled. Not from fear. Not from anger. From disbelief. This was my son's home. The house I helped him buy. The house I cleaned, cooked in, raised him through heartbreaks and promotions and sleepless nights. The house I filled with warm meals, worn blankets, and every soft part of motherhood I had left. And now, I was standing outside it like a stranger. I sank onto the porch step. My breath felt too shallow, too quick. The ache in my chest spread like a bruise. My eyes burned, but no tears fell. I think I had cried too many silent tears in the past weeks to produce more. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Then another. I told myself, just wait. She'll open the door eventually. She will. She has to. But the door stayed closed. And for the first time in a long time, I felt genuinely, undeniably, alone. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at the wood grain of the door like it might answer me. But then I heard it. Footsteps on the gravel. A familiar stride. Slow. Steady. Determined. My breath hitched. I looked up. And there he was. My son. My soldier. My boy. Standing at the end of the walkway, duffel bag slung over his shoulder, uniform dusty from travel, and eyes, those same warm brown eyes, locked on me as if the rest of the world disappeared. "Mom," he said, voice low, almost breaking. "Why are you outside?" I opened my mouth. No words came. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because in that single second, the entire weight of the last few months finally cracked open inside me. He dropped his bag the moment he saw my face. No hesitation. No questions. Just pure instinct as he rushed toward me and knelt at my feet like he was checking a wounded soldier on a battlefield instead of his own mother on a quiet suburban porch. "Mom, what happened? Did you fall? Are you hurt?" His hands cupped my cheeks, warm and trembling. I wished I could answer. I wished my voice would work. But shock is a strange thing, it freezes the body before the mind even realizes what it's reacting to. Finally, after a long breath, I whispered, "I didn't fall, sweetheart." She locked the door. His eyes changed instantly. That softness, the gentle, boyish concern evaporated. What replaced it wasn't anger, it was something colder. A protectiveness so sharp it could slice through steel. "Locked you out," he repeated, as if he needed to make sure he heard it right. "You mean, on purpose?" I looked down at my hands. Wrinkled. Shaking. Empty. "Yes," I whispered. "On purpose." He didn't say another word. He just stood slowly, deliberately, as if bracing himself for a storm he already intended to walk straight through. Then he grabbed his bag with one hand and offered me the other. "Come on," he said softly. "You're not staying out here." I thought he was taking me around to the back door. I thought maybe he was going to knock, to ask Emily what was wrong. But he didn't. He walked straight to the front door, took one hard look at the lock, and stepped aside like he was giving me space. "Mom," he said quietly, "I need you to tell me the truth. Everything. Not the soft version. Not the polite version. The real version." I swallowed. "This isn't the time." "It is," he interrupted, but his voice wasn't sharp. It was hurting. "It is the time. I've been away for months. I trusted her to take care of you. I trusted you to tell me if something was wrong. And now I come home and find you on the porch like," he paused, breathing hard, "like you don't belong in your own house." My eyes filled so fast I couldn't stop it. He stepped closer, thumb brushing a tear off my cheek. "Mom, please, tell me." And so, for the first time, I did. Not everything. Not at once. Just pieces. Small pieces. How she had slowly started giving me all the chores. How she'd stopped eating with me. How she'd avoid touching the things I touched. How the list of household jobs grew longer and colder. How my room became too cluttered for me to sleep in. How I learned to sleep on the couch so she wouldn't sigh at me. How she'd push me out of the kitchen when her friends visited. How every day I shrank a little more to keep the peace. And finally, how she locked the door. I expected him to get angrier and angrier as I talked. But he didn't. He grew quieter. Calmer. Almost frighteningly still. When I finished, he took a slow breath, looked at the door again, and said, "She forgot something." I frowned. "What?" He looked at me with that same unwavering, soldier-steady expression. "She forgot this house isn't hers to lock." Then he knocked on the door. Not hard. Not dramatic. Just one calm, deliberate knock. Inside, I heard footsteps, quick, light, nervous. The lock clicked. The door opened. And Emily appeared in the doorway with a smile that froze the moment she saw him standing there. "Oh my God, Daniel. You're home," she said, her voice bright and panicked at the same time. She threw her arms open, stepping closer for a hug. But he didn't move. Not an inch. His arms stayed at his sides. His eyes didn't leave her face. "Why was my mother outside?" he asked quietly. The kind of quiet that shakes a person more than yelling ever could. Emily blinked. Twice. Oh. She must have stepped out while I didn't hear, I didn't realize. He didn't reply. He just let the silence stretch so deeply she started to tremble. "Daniel, I swear," she stammered. "I didn't do anything wrong." She must have just been confused. "Confused," he repeated, voice still low. "My mom hasn't been confused a day in her life. Try again." I saw her throat tighten. She had never seen him like this. And neither had I. "Let's go inside, Mom," he said finally, turning slightly toward me. But I didn't move. For some reason, my feet were frozen. Maybe it was fear. Maybe shame. Maybe years of trying to make myself smaller. He turned back to me, softer now. "You're coming in," he said gently. "You belong in this house more than anyone." I nodded. Slowly. Carefully. I stepped past Emily. She didn't look at me. And I didn't look at her. But I could feel it, the panic rolling off her in waves. Because for the first time, she wasn't in control. Inside, Daniel set his bag down and closed the door with a soft click. Then he turned to Emily. "Sit," he said. Just one word. Calm. Commanding. And for the first time since I'd known her, she actually listened. She sat hands in her lap. Eyes lowered. Breathing shaky. Daniel remained standing, arms crossed, shoulders squared. "Now," he said quietly, "you're going to explain exactly what you've been doing to my mother while I've been gone." Emily swallowed. Hard. And for the first time, she didn't have a ready excuse. Emily didn't answer right away. She sat there on the edge of the couch, her fingers twisting into each other, her throat tightening like every word she tried to swallow was a stone too big to hide. Daniel didn't move. He didn't raise his voice. He simply waited. Soldiers know how to wait in a way that makes the air around them feel heavier. And she felt every ounce of it. I didn't mean for anything to happen," she finally whispered. "That's not an answer," he replied calmly. "What did you do?" She flinched at how steady his voice was. Not angry. Not loud. Just firm, controlled, and impossible to lie to. I got overwhelmed," she said, her voice breaking. "I work, I run errands, I have things to do, and she stopped herself like she realized she was already slipping. "She what?" Daniel asked. "Say it." "She slowed things down," she whispered. Daniel's jaw tightened. "You slowed down too when you had a broken ankle last year. And my mom cooked for you, cleaned for you, helped you shower. She was here every single day." Emily blinked rapidly, eyes filling. "I know, but things changed. I didn't expect to live with your mom forever, Daniel." "You weren't living with her," he replied. "She was living with us. That's a big difference." Emily looked away. And he kept going. "Did you make her sleep on the couch?" She froze. I looked at the floor. There was no hiding it now. "Yes or no," he repeated. Emily's voice dropped to a whisper. "Yes." "Did you give her your chores?" "Yes." "Did you have her hand wash your laundry?" "Yes." "Did you call her too slow?" "Sometimes." "And did you lock her outside today?" Silence. A heavy, guilty silence. Daniel leaned in just slightly. "Don't lie to me." Emily swallowed. "Yes." He closed his eyes for one moment. Just one. Like he was absorbing every word before letting his next breath fall into place. When he opened them again, that softness, the one he usually saved for me, was gone. "Emily," he said quietly, "you didn't marry just me. You married my family. My mother gave you nothing but help, respect, kindness, and you repaid her by treating her like she was a burden. I didn't. Don't." He cut her off gently, but firmly. "Just don't." Her lips trembled. I was stressed. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought she understood. "She understood," he said. "She just didn't want to cause problems in my marriage. She took every insult quietly because she didn't want to come between us." I felt my breath catch. He understood that without me ever saying it. Emily rubbed her face frantically. "I'm sorry. I messed up. I just needed space." Daniel tilted his head slightly. "You needed space, so you threw my mother out of her own house? It was only for a moment. You left her with no phone, no key, no shoes." My eyes dropped to my feet. I had indeed walked out barefoot. Emily looked like she might break. "I swear I didn't mean for it to be cruel." "But it was cruel," he said, voice soft but unshakable. "And the fact that you only realize it now after I came home tells me everything." Then he stepped back. Not far. Just enough for the emotional distance to become physical too. "Daniel, please," she whispered. "I can fix this. I'll change. I swear." He didn't respond. He just turned to me. "Mom," he said gently, "go to your room. You don't need to hear the rest." But I didn't want to leave him. I didn't want him to face this alone. And he seemed to understand that without me saying a word. So instead of insisting, he offered his arm not as a command, but as comfort. I placed my hand on it, steadying myself. "Daniel," Emily cried, standing now, "please say something. Tell me what you want me to do." He turned back to her one last time. "I want you," he said quietly, "to understand what respect looks like. Because the way you treated my mother is the way I can never allow anyone in my life to treat her." Her face went pale. Like she realized exactly what he meant. Exactly what this might lead to. But Daniel didn't speak further. He simply walked me down the hallway, step by step, past the kitchen where I'd washed dishes until midnight, past the laundry room where I'd wrung out clothes by hand, past the living room couch where I'd slept in silence. Until we reached my old bedroom. He pushed the door open gently. And the moment I stepped inside, I froze. My breath caught. My hands shook. Because the room wasn't mine anymore. My knitting basket was gone. My blankets were gone. My rocking chair was gone. Everything that made it mine. Replaced. Erased. As if I'd never lived there at all. Daniel's voice hardened behind me. "Oh, she really crossed a line." I didn't have to turn around to know. Something in him had snapped. And quietly, dangerously, he whispered, "This ends tonight." He stepped past me into the room, moving slowly, taking in every detail like a soldier surveying a damaged site. He touched the empty wall where my family photos once hung. He opened the closet where my dresses used to be. He pulled out drawers that now held things I'd never seen before: Emily's sweaters, her scarves, her perfumes. My things weren't moved. They were removed. Daniel's jaw tightened. He turned back toward the hallway and called out, not loudly, not angrily, just with that quiet firmness that made every word land like a command. "Emily, come here." Her footsteps were hesitant, almost shaky. When she reached the doorway, she stopped the moment she saw the room, and the look on his face. She knew. She absolutely knew. "Where are my mother's things?" he asked. Emily opened her mouth, closed it again, opened it once more. "I put them in storage," she whispered. "Where?" "In the garage." "Why?" Her eyes reddened. "I needed the space. I thought she wouldn't mind." Daniel shook his head once. Slow. Controlled. "No," he said. "You didn't think she wouldn't mind. You thought she wouldn't speak up." Emily's breath hitched. Daniel walked closer, not threatening, just impossibly calm. "You took her room. You erased her place in this house. And then you locked her outside." He wasn't shouting. He didn't need to. Every word cut exactly where it needed to. "Daniel, please," she whispered, reaching for him, "I made mistakes. You made choices," he said, stepping back so she couldn't touch him. "And now I have to make mine." Her face went pale. What are you saying?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he turned to me, his voice soft in a way that made my chest tighten. "Mom, do you want to stay here?" I looked at him, then at the room, then back at him. And for the first time in a long time, I was honest with myself. "No," I said quietly. Emily gasped. Daniel nodded, like he already knew. "Then you're coming with me." He said it without hesitation. No second thoughts. No guilt. No wavering. To him, protecting me wasn't optional. Emily stepped forward, panicked. "Daniel, you can't just leave, this is our home." He looked at her with a softness that wasn't love, but mercy. "This house stopped being a home the moment you treated my mother like she was disposable." She started crying harder, reaching out again. "Please, baby, don't do this." He gently lifted his hand, stopping her. I stood on foreign soil for months, fighting to come back to the people I love. And the first thing I find when I get home is the person I love most sitting outside in the cold because the woman I married locked her out. Emily sobbed into her hands. Daniel walked to the closet, pulled out my old coat, shook off the dust, and draped it gently over my shoulders like he used to when I was cold as a child. "Mom," he said softly, "go wait in the living room. I'll get your things." I nodded. It took strength to step past Emily, but I did. And when I reached the living room, I heard Daniel's voice behind me, quiet, steady, final. "I'll send someone for the rest of my belongings tomorrow." Emily broke completely at that. "No, please. Daniel, I can fix this, please don't leave me." But he didn't respond. Not with a promise. Not with anger. Not even with bitterness. Only with the truth. "You broke something in this house I can't fix." A moment later, he walked out with my bags. And without looking back, he placed his arm around me and said a sentence that healed something in me I didn't even know was broken. "Mom, you're coming home with me." The night air was cool, but for the first time in years, I felt warm. Not because of the coat. Not because of the car heater. But because I knew I hadn't lost my home that day. I had found it again. In the one person who never forgot who I was. My son.